Hello, folks. Babbaginator here. We're back in the Long Dark. We're currently early in this new attempt, which I can't remember if it's attempt 4 or 5, but we are started. Let's see, what do we leave ourselves? We forgot to write down what we need to do next, so what do we need to do next? I think equipment-wise, still looking for clothes. Could use more cloth for repairs. Make this run? Yeah, let's make this the one. Oh. Need food. Okay, let's see. All the audio is working properly. We're good.
This pack is getting kind of heavy.
Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. Sweep through here. See if there's a hammer just left alone. No hammer. So I'm on tonight because originally I wasn't going to be here. I have a friend visiting from out of town. Well, look at that. Wow. um, but my friend said that they wanted to meet up tomorrow instead. So I'm like, okay. And I'll be on tonight. Where you at? Go away. Go away. Yeah, I had a D&D session last night. It was kind of funny. It's like they've been fighting to get to this one particular person they have a bounty to take down. And all the combats leading up to the final combat were more dramatic than the final combat, which actually ended up being kind of a little bit anticlimactic because they did a really great job of planning. Well, just tactics worked out really well. So, like, they nerfed the main guy's mobility, and he was a swashbuckler, so pretty much everything was about mobility. So, like, yeah, they figured out a way to get him restrained in the first round, and it was like, great. It was ogre zombie bodyguard. I just had him explode at the end because you have to have something. Well, it's my own fault too because he'd escaped a number of previous encounters. You know, just basically abandoned his own people and left them behind. And so the party kind of realized very quickly he's not someone that's going to stick around. He's a coward and he's going to flee as soon as he gets a chance. So let's make certain he doesn't get a chance. So it worked. I mean, I really could have, that was really cheap. I would just have them defeat that guy, and then after he dies, the enchantment wears off, and they realize they killed his stunt double. And the real guy is still out there. But I decided not to mess with them that much. Yeah, I thought about like when they sever his head, because they're going to bring back his head as a trophy, you know, for the bounty. That once the head's removed, it reverts back to its original face, and it's like, oh no, we killed the wrong guy.
Thank you.
It's okay. They have enough other leads, things to follow, and I did want them to have some sort of closure, because all this chasing down this particular like mini boss has been delaying them from taking their long rest so they can level up. So they're really grateful now that they actually have a semi-isolated location where they can take a long rest and level up. Especially since most of them are in like single digit hit points, so. Don't really have much to show for this. Do we stay here overnight? What are we going to eat? We got food to eat. Keep hoping we'll find a fry pan or a pot, but we're not. Oh, I know where else we could go.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Okay, we have a couple choices. We could go up there, but that could walk right us into a bear. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to the plane crash. And then we're going to come down and stay back in the Quonset. I finished off my work week earlier this morning. Realized I probably should have tried to squeeze in a few more hours before turning in my timesheet, but it's okay. I'll have to need extra hours next for the next pay cycle, just so that I forgot that I'm no longer benefiting from having two different pay rates, because I had earlier last couple months I've been splitting my time between my main job and a different contracted project. And the contracted project paid a lot better. So like the hours I worked for that really, really were helpful. But I don't get that anymore. So I'm back to my usual pay rate, which is, yeah, we'll see. It's really making me wonder if I should try to I don't know. It's interesting. Like this November, December, January, February run is a terrible time to be trying to scrounge up any sort of consulting work. Because it's holiday season, right? So no one really has time. So it's not bad for editing if people want to like give me something to edit. So we don't have to have face-to-face meetings right away. You know, we can do that in the new year and they'll just have me edit a book manuscript. That's great. I've got one client that sent me a book manuscript to edit. But that's just one. I really could use like a few more supplemental income. So yeah, it's making me reconsider if maybe I do want to do some pro DMing, run some D&D games for money, for filthy lucre. And I know I'm not going to get enough, especially just starting out. You can't expect to fill all your games. No, we'll have to fix that later. Yeah. But if I could do 1 or 2 games a week, even that would be helpful. Maybe just do a bunch of one-offs initially. I don't know. I don't know which is easier to fill, like the ongoing games or the one-offs. I know, unfortunately, most people end up having to charge like, you know, somewhere between $18 and $22 per head. So if you get, let's say you get $20 per person, you know, 4 people in a, you know, 3-hour game, then you're getting, you know, that's 80 divided by 3. You're making barely like $24, $25, and not even $25 an hour. Well, a little bit more than $25 an hour. Right? And that's not counting your prep time. Ooh. No, that's nice. But there is more demand during the holiday season for D&D than there is during other times. So maybe it is wise to advertise and try to pick up a few games. I think I'd probably run some like mini campaigns, like 2 to 3 session games. Things that I run all the time for fun. Invisible torch. So like I think probably the old folks home one that I run. It's like a adventure set in the a retirement community for elderly adventurers, former heroes, once upon a time villains. Who now have to make one last, have one last adventure, which is to figure out what in the world is stealing food from their pantry in the middle of the night, and what's the source of the weird noises in the basement. Which then leads to all sorts of interesting shenanigans. So, okay. Okay, guys. Go away. Oh, the staff has been disappearing too, so lots of mysterious disappearances. Bye.
Man, this pack is getting kind of heavy.
$23. But yeah, the reason why I like the old folks one is that I find people really have a great time.
Come on, little.
It's just easy to step into roleplay when you're imagining an elderly adventure. It's rich. It just has a lot of opportunities to really ham things up. So I think it's a good one. Okay, so let's see what we have here. We want to drop. Okay, let us deal with what we can here. Do we have leather? No, we just have cloth. But yeah, I was also talking to one of the other people in my D&D group on Thursday night who is also he finished his PhD. I guess it would have been over the summer or just before the summer, or maybe in the spring. And then moved to Vancouver and currently, is doing a lot of tutoring work and essay writing or essay coaching type work. But we were commiserating about like how difficult that market is right now because it's not just the holiday season, it's just like the general attitude of students has been that most people are not inclined to ask another human being for help, but increasingly they just ask ChatGPT or some other generative, AI to help them with their essays or to rewrite things or to, kind of dissect what they're doing. And yeah, I mean, it's going to give you, it'll help you write a mediocre essay that will probably be passable because most adjunct and sessional lecturers are swamped. They don't really have time to read everything. So if it looks passable, they'll probably just pass it. You'll get that C plus, B minus, maybe even a B, It'll be sufficient, but it won't be stellar. And you won't have learned anything, right? And so it's kind of frustrating that, like, rather than, hire someone to actually help you develop this skill, so many people are just like saying, oh, I can just have the AI tell me what I need to do. And there's no critical thought beyond that point. So they're just basically offloaded all the critical thinking. Yeah, it's kind of scary. Okay, we need to fix stuff. I think we're going to try to repair this one. Yeah, so, and I was telling him that, I think the other part of my struggle is that most of my clientele, I often have clients from the States. And as you might imagine, right now, that is a very difficult market because everything is uncertain, financially uncertain for a lot of people. And so, like, people are like, this is a luxury I cannot afford right now. So, yeah, and so like I totally get that. I think that's perfectly expected. That you've got some different priorities right now. I've got a friend right now who's just struggling. Um, has injured their foot and needs to see a podiatrist, and before that, possibly get an X-ray. And it's terrifying for them because they're just running through all these different places and no one's like able to take their insurance to do this one thing. Oh, we have a disturbance in the force. Block you. Go away. I think we'll just drop that. Keep that. Stylish, Astrid. Looking stylish. It's not really helping us though. Still need something better for the hands. Yeah. Okay, so we failed to find a hammer here. We do have another toolbox, which we don't need. Alright, we already have our toolbox. Yeah, got our toolbox. Now let's use up more crappy torches. Yep. So I also took a little time this morning, went through my closet and put together a big bag of stuff to drop off at the Value Village, like just clothing that I'm just not wearing, or it turned out to be a bad idea because it just doesn't look good on me. Yeah. Sadly, I can't, I don't have the time, patience, or luck to turn most of those things into money again, but
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
did we go over to the other house? I think we went over to the other house. Yeah. I think we're gonna go wolf over there. Do we go up here? Yeah, so I don't know. It's I checked my contract for my university position, and I'll have to double check this with my boss, but it looks like my contract goes all the way through until the end of December. Originally, I thought they were going to end me at that it would end, with the end of the academic school year, but no, it actually runs all the way through to the 31st. So I'll have to see if my boss will let me work in the latter half of December, and we'll just figure out some other project I can work on. I've been doing a lot of documentation work, writing up these different guides about text extraction technology and artificial intelligence tools. Mainly for academic researchers who are not as familiar, like in the humanities. They may not really know what a large language model is, what machine learning is, and when it makes sense to use, what's feasible, really. I guess that's a big part of it, is just trying to make things a little bit more transparent, because sometimes people because they don't believe there's technology to do something, they think the research is not possible. But in fact, like, if you're more familiar with what's out there, you might ask different research questions. You might realize there are things that you can do that you didn't realize you could do. So, like, explaining different aspects of computer vision, and different aspects of natural language processing tools. I think the next one I'm going to write about is, we already have 2 of those. We don't need another one. Is Notebook LM, and Microsoft has an equivalent one called Copilot Notebook. But basically, they're tools that, if you're not familiar with them, you can, instead of having a large language learning model, large language model you're having. Yeah, I'm not saying I endorse these, but people will ask questions. They'll say like, "Oh, is it possible to do something like this? I want to build like a limited language model that only relies on the sources I give it and doesn't do a general, reference and doesn't feed my materials into the general like training data." Yeah, Copilot is annoying in the sense that we really don't. It's really hard to get rid of it. They just keep pushing it back in. Yeah. It's like Edge. They kept pushing Edge into. Say, oh, we're using this browser. You should use this other browser. Yeah, I've been toying around with doing that. I don't use it for anything, but I haven't got around to uninstalling it. Okay, so let's see. Do we go up top? I guess we could check over here, see if the...
Never thought I'd be dying from starvation.
Okay, well, we did find our birch saplings, so that's good news. Okay, why don't we just bring our birch saplings back to the Quonset, and then we can leave them to cure while we go and explore everything else. Yeah, but anyways, Notebook LM is just like, you can set it up so that you have, at the free tier, you can add up to 50 documents, and then you basically, that's the training material. And then you can, ask the notebook to summarize things. You can pose questions and it will respond based only on what's in the training material, and it will cite its sources. So you'll know what documents it's referring to. And there's like a few other things. Oh, you can make it create what they're calling a podcast summary, where they basically they make like a short podcast generated, right, with generated voices. The generated voices, I listened to one of the samples. The generated voices sound actually decent. Although it is a little bit annoying that basically the second voice's main role is to just add in the occasional yeah, yeah, kind of like that. So basically that's all the second voice does, and the first voice is like trying to sell you or like give these nugget-sized pieces of
Not sure I can carry much more.
of the concept that it's been asked to summarize, or the materials it's been asked to summarize. Oops. Yeah. So anyways, I think I'll write up a little. I did some research today, and then I think I'll write up next week. I'll write up a brief guide to it. And maybe talk about like when it makes sense and when it doesn't make sense. The 50 document cap for the free version is pretty generous. It's better than what the Microsoft Copilot version has. And it also will take in web pages and like other formats of materials. That's different from how the Copilot version, which is much more stripped down. The Copilot version's podcast summary or audio summary is also sounds much more AI. You know, the voice is like less natural sounding. So. But it was interesting. Wolves all out there. We'll just get this fishing hut. The other like little side hustle thing I considered is writing a few more like RPG like PDF materials that I could sell through like Try-Through RPG. I did one a while ago where it wasn't so much like a resource. Well, what it was is I basically I had made, like I was running, I'd been volunteering to DM these like it was a fundraiser, D&D fundraiser thing for Big Brothers Big Sisters in the city where I used to be in Saskatchewan. And so, like, given the fact that I didn't know anyone at my table, like, I knew I wouldn't know anyone at my table, and everyone was running pre-gens, I made these, like, little standees, like, these little folded pieces of paper that on one side has, like, an abbreviated character sheet, like, all the important things that the player would care about. And then on the other side, facing the DM and the rest of the table, would be like the character's name, the player's name, you know, and some very basic information that just help us stay like in character. Right? And so that was well, I made those for that event, and I thought, you know, these are actually pretty useful. I'll just make them available on Drive-Thru RPG. And it was an experiment. I left it as pay what you want, so they're like recommended like $1.25. Most of the time people just take them for free. Occasionally someone pays me money. Yeah, it's, I'd say over its lifetime, you know, of a few years, it's probably been downloaded maybe around 100 times. So it's not like a bestseller or anything like that. But anyways, it was kind of proof of concept. Could I do something that might be valuable to the community? And I could do another one like that, but I also have been thinking about, like, can I make, sort of little tools, little resources that help people become better at, better DMs in some way. Usually with regard to description, how can I help people become better at description? And some of it, I think, might be just simply a kind of a Mad Lib style, template for doing descriptions for different types of environments, and then giving them sort of like some tables or some lists of like ideas that might go into there, but not like saying you have to use these. It's more like you should make your own little list and write your own descriptions in advance if you want, or just like use these as a guide when you're like trying to describe something. And memorizing the template, that little Mad Lib template, would actually be really helpful for most people, I think. It'd just be kind of a prompt. It'd just be a trigger for them to kind of drop in words, adjectives, nouns that would make sense for that scene.
This pack is getting kind of heavy.
So yeah, I'm thinking about, I started working on one of those, and then I have like a couple other like things I could do. Like I could finish working on my crab fight game, and then I was also working on a fantasy bookseller game, making those little like downloadable games. I think would be kind of fun. It's like, okay, I'm gonna take a short break here. Be back in a sec. Okay, back. Oh, no worries. I just got back myself. I took a short break. Wanted to grab a few cough candies since I was starting to get a little bit of a scratchy voice.
Not sure I can carry much more.
So yeah, I'm not certain what I should work on work-wise, what my next tutorial will be or next guide will be after I finish the notebook one. I have to figure out what else I could write about. Some other, I mean, I could do a write-up on, I mean, I'm hesitant to write up stuff that there are other great tutorials already existing. But I guess I could write at least a few paragraphs on some of them and then just redirect them to the full, you know, better explanations elsewhere. Oh, is this in Troopers?
Wonder if I can drop any of this gear. Use this.
It's food. I'll take that. Doesn't look like a carcass over there. Is this a solo game or is this a group game that he's running? Ah, okay.
And this pack is getting kind of heavy.
Yeah. Season 7, episode 5. Wow, that's long. I'm trying to think what the longest has been that I've run. What was my 74 episodes? That was, and I had it broken up into seasons. Like I went back and I broke it into seasons because there were clear arcs for that one. Let's see, that was. Is it this one? 72. Yeah, so this is my super long campaign that I ran a few years back. And I wrote the recaps for every single session. I don't have that kind of energy anymore, but that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I think if you look at that, you'll see that, oops. It works out to be we had 9 seasons. We didn't finish the last one because I moved back to Canada. And it was summer, and so it kind of threw a wrench into the scheduling. And I hadn't figured out how to run an online game well, so we tried a couple online sessions, but we ended up pulling the plug, so. But yes, one of my all-time favorite campaigns.
Where can I find something to eat?
Nope, we don't need that. I think we can make some more torches though.
Come on, little fire. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
I feel like this is just going to get worse. Okay, got nothing. Nothing.
I'm not sure I can carry much more. Oh, lucky day.
Not looking good.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Okay.
Man, I could eat anything.
Okay.
I need something to eat. This pack is getting kind of heavy.
I think we should make a run for yeah, I think we'll hit the two houses, the island houses, and then we'll see how food goes on the island houses. If we don't find very much food, then I think we'll have to hit the cattails in Bear Creek. Hey, welcome in, Kindle. Let's do that. Let's read something from the Long Noir. Haven't done that in a while, but fun. Okay, let's see if we can pull that up here. See if I can find that. Maltese Falcon. I think we were in chapter 2. Nope, we just finished chapter 2. We're in chapter 3. So we're reading the Maltese Falcon. We'll read about a page or so. Chapter 3, the Maltese Falcon. 3 women. When Spade reached his office at 10 o'clock the following morning, Effie Perrine was at her desk, opening the morning's mail. Her boyish face was pale under its sunburn. She put down the handful of envelopes and the brass paper knife she held and said, "She's in here." Oh, she's in there. Her voice was low and warning. I asked you to keep her away, Spade complained. He too kept his voice low. Effie Perrine's brown eyes opened wide, and her voice was irritable as his. Yes, but you didn't tell me how. Her eyelids went together a little, and her shoulders drooped. Don't be cranky, Sam, she said wearily. I had her all night. Spade stood beside the girl, put a hand on her head, and smoothed her hair away from its parting. Sorry, Angel, I haven't. He broke off as the inner door opened. Hello, Iva, he said to the woman who had opened it. Oh, Sam, she said. She was a blonde woman of a few more years than 30. Her facial prettiness was perhaps 5 years past its best moment. Her body, for all its sturdiness, was finely modeled and exquisite. She wore black clothes from a hat to shoes. They had as morning an impromptu air. Having spoken, she stepped back from the door and stood waiting for Spade. He took his hand from Effie Perrine's head and entered the inner office, shutting the door. Iva came quickly to him, raising her sad face for his kiss. Her arms were around him before his held her. When they had kissed, he made a little movement as if to release her, but she pressed her face to his chest and began sobbing. He stroked her round back, saying, Poor darling. His voice was tender, his eyes squinting at the desk that had been his partner's, across from the room from his own, were angry. He drew his lips back over his teeth in an impatient grimace and turned his chin aside to avoid contact with the crown of her hat. Did you send for Miles's brother? He asked. Yes, he came over this morning. The words were blurred by her sobbing and his coat against her mouth. He grimaced again and bent his head for a surreptitious look at the watch on his wrist. His left arm was around her, the hand on her left shoulder. His cuff was pulled back far enough to leave the watch uncovered. It showed 10:10. The woman stirred in his arms and raised her face again. Her blue eyes were wet, round, and white-ringed. Her mouth was moist. Oh, Sam, she moaned. Did you kill him? Spade stared at her with bulging eyes. His bony jaw fell down. He took his arms from her and stepped back out of her arms. He scowled at her and cleared his throat. She held her arms up as he had left them. Anguish clouded her eyes, partly closed under eyebrows pulled up at the inner ends. Her soft, damp red lips trembled. Spade laughed a harsh syllable. Ha! And went back to the buff curtained window. He stood there with his back to her, looking through the curtain into the court, until she started towards him. Then he turned quickly and went to his desk. He sat down, put his elbows on the desk, his chin between his fists, and looked at her. His yellowish eyes glittered between narrowed lids. Who, he asked coldly, put that bright idea in your head? I thought. She lifted a hand to her mouth, and fresh tears came to her eyes. She came to stand beside the desk, moving with easy, sure-footed grace in black slippers whose smallness and heel height were extreme. Be kind to me, Sam, she said humbly. He laughed at her, his eyes still glittering. You killed my husband, Sam. Be kind to me. He clapped his palms together and said, Jesus Christ. She began to cry audibly, holding a white handkerchief to her face. He got up and stood close behind her. He put his arms around her. He kissed her neck between ear and coat collar. He said, Now, Iva, don't. His face was expressionless. When she had stopped crying, he put his mouth to her ear and murmured, You shouldn't have come here today, precious. It wasn't wise. You can't stay. You ought to be home. She turned around in his arms to face him and asked, You'll come tonight? He shook his head gently. Not tonight. Soon? Yes. How soon? As soon as I can. He kissed her mouth, led her to the door, opened it, and said, Goodbye, Iva. Bowed her out, shut the door, returned to his desk. He took the tobacco and cigarette papers from his vest pockets, but did not roll a cigarette. He sat holding the papers in one hand, the tobacco in the other, and looked with brooding eyes at his dead partner's desk. We'll stop there. Okay, so that's the beginning of chapter 3 for Maltese Falcon. Reading that, you just kind of realize how dense a lot of these sentences are. Like the writing style, it's like super, super dense. So it's evocative of the scene, but it's actually not really friendly to being read out loud. It's like, I mean, it's like a cold reading of it is. I think if you practice it, it would be a little bit easier. But still, it feels. There's some writers that write in a way that it just feels natural to read out loud, and you don't like. You're not like anticipating one thing, getting a word that really doesn't feel like. Or I guess like grammatically, there's sometimes a little bit of a weirdness to the structure of those. I mean, it's style, right? It's partly style, but it's also what works written doesn't always work as well read out loud. And I imagine if you were to listen to audiobooks, they would probably be doing some edits just to make it a little bit easier to read out loud. Yeah, Cormac McCarthy too is like it's practice, right?
I'm sure I'm carrying much more.
No. Ooh. I should probably look and see if I can find some. We got that. We just need a pan. We get a skillet somewhere. I would like to try reading a bunch of Cormac McCarthy in front of people. It's not in the public domain, so I can't really do it here. At least I'm not quite certain how that works. I think if you like do something else, you modify it in some way. It's not just simply regurgitating the text, but if you do something else, then it's transformative in terms of avoiding being stuck with copyright infringement issues. Sutry went better than Blood Meridian. That's interesting. I don't know if I would have expected that, but But I don't really know Sutry, so.
Wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
We get all the clone sticks now. Maybe we'll go back inside and process our foods. Yeah. And I don't have my copy of Blood Meridian here. It's back in Saskatchewan. I'd have to look around, see what I do have that I think is pretty readable. Let's see what I can do here. You know, just pulling this up. I have like some little excerpts of things when I'm teaching creative writing sometimes, or doing writing coaching work. I sometimes provide people like the first pages of different document or different stories, just so that they can see how things get started. So I'm trying to think what I have. That would be. Oh, I think like, and this is translation, but it's. I'm trying to think if this is a good example. I think I like some of his other ones better. Okay, so this is like an example of a really strange, evocative first paragraph. This is from Robertson Davies, who's a Canadian author. The opening paragraph for his book, The Cunning Man, begins, should I have taken the false teeth? In my years as a police surgeon, I would certainly have done so. Who can say what might be clinging to them, or in the troughs that fit over the gums? I would have been entirely within my rights, but in this curious situation, what indisputable rights had I? But like the first sentence is like, should I have taken the false teeth? Like, but it's not as good actually as his book that starts with it kills the main character in the first sentence, which is brilliant. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Raymond Carver's Cathedral. No, I'm trying to think like what has a really beautiful start. This is the opening paragraph from a short story by Edward P. Jones called The Girl Who Raised Pigeons. This, I think, is one of my favorite openings. Her father would say years later that she had dreamed that part of it, that she had never gone out through the kitchen window at 2 or 3 in the morning to visit the birds. By that time in his life, he would have so many notions about himself set in concrete, and having always believed that he slept lightly, he would not want to think that a girl of 9 or 10 could walk by him at such an hour in the night without his waking and asking of the dark, "Who is it? What's the matter?" Such a great opening. I mean, it tells you all sorts of interesting things about the characters and about the world. Yeah, no, that one's like really cool. A lot of Italo Calvino is a fantastic like Italian writer, fabulous, magical realist, and his stories are always like amazing how they start off. Ooh, just popped in. Still kind of gusty. Maybe we wait a little bit longer. Anything else we can repair? Yeah. Oh, it's gotten worse. Should we go?
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
I'm trying to decide whether we should go back and try our luck with do we want to grab cattails or do we want to go find the hammer? Oh, wait a sec, there is one place we haven't checked here. I can't remember if it's this one. I'm gonna check this one. What do we have out here? Nothing worth it. Not worth it.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
Okay, we'll try our luck up here. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna. I think we have the blue trailer and the maybe the lookout. Those are like our last places really to check. Oh, I think we did miss a car though. If I could pick a writer to write the long dark story, living or dead, who would it be? That's a really good question. Different writers would bring different things. Like I do think like you could have a Cormac McCarthy version of this, but it would probably be a lot more violent. um, you know who would actually do a pretty decent job? Louis L'Amour. If you want it to be like really feel hard hitting with decent action, a certain amount of introspection, but not too much. He has such an economy with language, but he can tell like a really good story. Louis L'Amour. And I would say, like, if you want an example of what that might have looked like, this is set in the 1980s. What's it called? L'Amour. What was it called? Last of the Breed. That's what it was. Yeah, so I would say like this could have been, you know, this feels like if someone were to make a survival game that was based on this book, yeah, I think it would be in the same vein as Long Dark. You know, it's basically about it's one of the things I loved about L'Amour was like he was just not afraid of writing in whatever genre he felt like writing. Everyone knows him for his like westerns, but he wrote like sci-fi. He wrote like historical fiction. He wrote you know, and he wrote like these other like experiments where he would go out of his normal thing and he would just write something else. And like so I feel like Last of the Breed was like one of those great, you know, experiments outside of his normal outside of what most people knew him for, you know. Really wanted to skill it. Yeah, you should be able to track it down through most libraries or find like a cheap copy on Amazon. But if you like the Long Dark, I think you would enjoy it.
Perfect.
Marilyn Robinson. I thought you were going to be really cheeky and say Dr. Seuss. It's like, I'd like to see The Long Dark as written by Dr. Seuss. I'm also kind of curious what it'd be like if Farley Mowat wrote it, or I know if you handed it off to Jack London,
I'll take it.
you'd be, oh, look at that. You hand it off to Jack London, you'd probably get a much stronger male voice and a terrible or non-existent women's voice. So you would have very little Astrid and yeah. And then it's like survival mode. I don't know. It would be different. Like some of those writers really didn't know how to write women. I mean, London's probably like one of the most in the vein, but I do think that, you know, we'd get a very lopsided story, right? It's stormy outside. Maybe we'll just stay inside and prepare our brand new pants. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like other like really good survival narratives that I've read. You will not get to eat sardines or squid. You will only eat cattails, Astrid. I think we want a verse that involves horses, though. Anything else we can do this. What do we have for food? And Mackenzie's intestines grew 3 sizes that day. Yeah, with parasites. Yeah. Don't think we can do anything to repair that. These are repaired. Still need better gloves. Let's just top off these ones here. We're at 9. Still pretty terrible. Oh, looks like we'll have enough to get through the night. See if we can find a spot outside where we can actually start a fire.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Can't fit it on here. Arguments with rock are like fighting a vending machine. Ooh. Yeah, I guess we have to throw some coal in here too.
This load for much longer.
keep the best torches and dump the others. Good enough. Okay, what are we eating? Sardines. This is such a healthy meal.
Barely walk.
Hmm.
I need to find food.
Yeah, we'll hold on to that.
I could eat a horse.
Okay.
I think my stomach is eating itself. This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay.
not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
Okay. Let's see. So I think that we forgot to check this one car over here. We're going to check this one car. How are we doing days wise? Day 6. So we have Guts curing back in Desolation Point. We have saplings curing in the Quonset. We just need to find the hammer. Yeah, do check it out. It's a good read. It's a good read. I kind of wish they had made a movie of it, and I think it would make a pretty good game.
I can't feel my feet.
Like, the premise would be a good survival game. Of course, these days you would have to hire sensitivity reader and a cultural advisor, right? Just to make certain you handle, you know, his I'm trying to remember what he is in the story. He's I can't remember if they mention what his tribe is. I think he's Apache, but I'm not positive. Anyways. No hammer. Oops. Okay. Where are we going? Okay, we're going to probably wrap up soon. But I think what we'll do is we'll go back to the log sort area or the mine. Maybe we'll stay in the mine. And just do the save somewhere like that. Ooh. I know what we should do. We should just go up here. Okay, so we're going to push up here and we will check. This is the shortcut to the blue trailer. Check and see if the hammer's here. If not, we'll just stay in the blue trailer, or that's at least where we'll enter to wrap up our stream. So yeah, no stream, most likely no stream tomorrow night. I'm supposed to meet up with a friend. So I don't think I'll be back in time to stream. Sunday night is D&D night, so I'll be busy with that. Monday night I might be on. Depends. Monday I have to take my... Whoa, you can extra arrowhead. 2 bonus arrowheads. No, we haven't even gotten Dash Canyon yet. Monday night I have to stream, but I'm also have to spend part of the morning going... Oh, that's annoying. Have to take my car in to get a little bit of work done. Nothing too drastic. It really boils down to I do not have the right tools or setup to do the two things that need to get done, which is basically replace the headlight assemblies. I have new headlights. I need to replace the old ones. And there are 3 bolts per headlight. 2 bolts are easy to reach. 1 is really difficult to reach, and I do not have a socket wrench that will get there. So annoying, but
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
feels deliberate on their part. That's just the guns one. And then I also have to put new fog light bulbs in for the car. And again, that's a situation where if I didn't park on the street, if I had a driveway, and I felt more confident about getting underneath the car, just a little bit concerned that all I have is a jack to do that, and better to have a lift or be underneath the car to get access to where the fog lights are. Yeah, exactly. I have a whole bunch of socket wrenches and I just don't have one that works. And I tried to buy one that would work and it was not the right length and angle to get there, so fail. Okay, we are officially day 6. Let's update our counter. That is the only thing that has changed. These are days. We are still far away from hunting. I mean, we're close, but we're far.
And this pack is getting kind of heavy.
Okay, day 6. Now we're going to wrap up as promised with a reading from someone else. Okay, this is from Blood, Sparrows, and Sparrows by Eugenia Lay. Poet that I know through Kundima, an Asian American literary organization. This was published by Four-Way Books in 2014. Deciding not to drown today. A man teeters at the edge of the East River. Is his beer half empty or half dangerous? Buildings belch from the other side of the river, squished inch thin if I squint hard enough. After his last deliberate swig, the man lifts his bottle over his head. as if considering whether to sacrifice it. He hesitates. He walks off, brandishing the bottle like a trophy, like something he almost lost. Where is the memo about knowing what to save, what to abort? I drift towards the man's abandoned mark, river murk and reflection divine nothing. A woman clips a leash to a toddler, and I notice a sign asking not to climb the rocks, please. Everyone warns us off the rocks. What will keep us from the river? That was Deciding Not to Drown Today by Eugenia Lay. And, yep. Okay, and then we'll read something. What should we read? We ask our magic 8-ball here and there. Okay, so this comes from my first book, Lost Country of Sight, published by Anhinga Press, 2007 or 2008. Won the Philip Levine Prize in 2007. Here and there. Okay. Read the poem, then I'll give you the backstory for the poem. Here and there. There's always an echo in the telling, something that remains hidden in the hand that passes over the sky. And now I can see it, if only through her eyes for this moment. That sky scraped wide over Joshua Tree in the dark, and the stars ringing like a cord of light, struck from the depths of some irreconcilable blue, sudden or slow. I do not ask why her hair is almost gone, why her body is now so frail, as if grown over an architecture of dust, that common remnant of longing. God, she says, it was beautiful. What could she tell me beyond the desert, its dreams of salt and storm? Here is a tree, a spent fist of flames, she seems to say, standing in the shadows. Here is the wind. The freeways are filling with strangers. The sun is coming down. Here is the road we drove all night to find a way home. And when I leave, there are men at every corner lighting my way, each selling oranges, offering with their hands the bitter and the sweet until they blend like a river of lamps burning. So the story behind this is dedicated to a poet friend of mine, Nancy Lambert, who was the person. She and her husband were these wonderful people in my life when I was in Los Angeles, and I was still working as a computer games programmer. And I started going to open mic poetry events. And at one of the events, the host invited me to come to a regular writing group, like a workshop group that met like every other week. And Nancy was one of the participants in that group. And she was a little bit older, and she was a really, really incredibly good writer and editor. And she was one of the people that encouraged me to apply for an MFA, to go and pursue an MFA in creative writing. And she was also the person that when I was struggling with my applications, the first couple of years I applied, I just didn't really get anywhere. And I finally went to her and I said, like, I really don't know what I'm doing with these applications. And she read my cover letter and my statement of purpose. And she said, why are you trying so hard to pass yourself off as if you were like everyone else when you're not like anyone else? And that is precisely why people are going to be interested in you. Just embrace those things that are different, that are unexpected about your background. and what brings you to writing, because that's what's going to make you interesting. So anyways, I owe a huge debt to Nancy. And so I stayed friends with her and her husband for years. And she ended up becoming very sick. She got cancer. She fought it for a number of years. And then things just went badly. They just turned really badly. And there was this final month or so where she knew that her time was almost done. And so she and her husband decided that they would go out to Joshua Tree one weekend. And he was an artist and she was a writer. And they spent the weekend out there drawing and painting and writing. And then I saw them when they got back, and she told me about it. And she said it was like this incredibly beautiful experience to be completely out there, just under the stars, in the middle of Joshua Tree. And, I was just really struck by, like, she had found peace with the fact that she knew her life was coming to a close, but she still had room in her life to embrace all these beautiful things. And she wanted that to be like her final days, is to be surrounded by the people that she loved and to be surrounded by beauty. And I remember being haunted by like that conversation. And then, this is Los Angeles. So on the drive back, I'm going through all these streets and I see all these, it's the time of year where, all these, migrant workers are on the street corners selling, oranges, and they're just offering them to you. And the image in the darkness, as it turns dusk, the orange is kind of floating in the air, reminded me of images I'd seen of Japanese Obun, which is like this festival for the dead, where they light lanterns and put them on the water and they float out, and the lanterns have writing on them, which are messages to the dead. And so those two images kind of like collapse together in that final moment. So yeah, so that's kind of the story behind Here and There. Yeah. So, okay, so yeah, you get a little bit deeper behind the scenes on that one. But yeah, that first book, The Lost Country of Sight, is, even, it eventually became, an elegy for my father, because my father passed away during the final year I was working on that book. But even before then, there were so many other people that I had lost, in the course of writing that book, that there was already a strong move towards elegy, to poems that remember and honor the dead and honor those who pass on and honor what we're on the verge of losing. So, yeah, for me, that was, it was just part of this larger process of navigating grief and navigating loss. So, okay, so thanks again. We are going to wrap up here as soon as we find someone to read. I looked earlier and I didn't see a lot of people I recognized, but it might have been just because it was early. Who do we have? We have more people streaming now. Games and Cookies is up. Okay, let's do that. Games and Cookies. It's been a while since we rated games. Okay, so we're going to go hop over to Games and Cookies, say hi, wrap up for the evening. Thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. And we'll see you, I think Monday is the plan. Yeah, take care. Thanks all. We'll see you on the other side of Yeah, and thanks to those who came in on the raid earlier.